I'm wearing my Mad Max t-shirt tonight because we have got riots in LA, but also they're planning them also in New York, Texas, and probably all of the major cities. I've known that this has been coming for a very long time, months now. I knew once summer came that there would be riots, and what we see is the Trump administration trying to arrest and deport illegals that by definition are already illegal for being in the country, but they're not even trying to go for that just yet. They're going for the most violent criminals, gang members, and the worst of the worst. I can't even say what a lot of these guys are have been indicted, convicted of, because YouTube, grape, we'll put it that way, grape. Other things, termination of other human beings, and that has sparked off a riot. This is Thomas Sowell Reacts. I've been sent this. He is awesome, very eloquent man, very intelligent. I love to listen to intellectuals. He's going to explain to us why this is happening. This was started under the Obama administration, which has basically started a whole generation of people that are just mentally, they're useful idiots, is what it is. This is a plan that has been in play for a long time. Obama and others, there was a 16-year plan to take down America in conjunction with the globalists and China. China is working with these Democrat politicians in the United States, but it's like a triad. The Chinese are trying to take over the world, the globalists are helping them, and the Democratic politicians in America have been either compromised, have been either bribed for money or for their weird sexual preferences. And now what's happening is we're seeing the culmination of this. By the way, Trump was asked to run back in 2015 to stop all this and run a counterinsurgency, and that's what he's doing. So the Democrats' backs are up against the wall, and they're only doing what they know they can. Only what they know they to do is violence. So let's hear what Thomas Sowell has to say. He's going to break it down as to step by step how this was started by Obama and has continued on. By the way, Obama is a CIA asset. He is a CIA. His mother was in the CIA. She was part of USAID, the massive money laundering scheme that uses U.S. money to overthrow itself. So here, let's hear what Thomas Sowell has to say.
While the Obama administration is not the root cause of the ominous dangers that face this country at home and abroad, it is the embodiment, the personification, and the culmination of dangerous trends that began decades ago. How does the President of the United States embody dangerous trends? How do you see this man?
Oh my gosh. I see him as someone who all his life has been associated with and part of a group of people who fundamentally don't believe in the principles of this country. Not only people, the most obvious example obviously is Jeremiah Wright. People like Bill Ayers, whom he's tried to disavow. But people who fundamentally think that we're on the wrong track, we have the wrong principles, and we need to be changed, whether we want to be or not.
Let's turn to Douglas Zader now with the very latest on these West Coast protests. Hi, Doug.
Good morning. Well, the president is warning California officials not to stand in the way of law and order as the demonstrations and riots in the Los Angeles area are entering their fourth day now. President Trump has superseded California Governor Gavin Newsom, calling in hundreds of National Guard troops to back up law enforcement agencies. LA's police chief said his officers were being pelted with everything from fireworks to cinder blocks.
We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers.
Civilization is not an inheritance that endures without effort. It is a fragile achievement, sustained only by the resolute enforcement of law and the moral courage of those entrusted to uphold it. When elected officials, those tasked with the stewardship of order, side with the lawless, they do not merely fail in their duties, they betray the very foundation of society itself. The riots in Los Angeles, sparked by the lawful arrest of convicted illegal immigrants and met with the deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops by President Trump, are not an isolated event. They are a symptom of a deeper malaise, a collapse of institutional responsibility that began not in the streets of California, but in the seminar rooms and press conferences of a decade ago. The question before us is not whether one agrees with the president's actions, but whether we still possess the will to defend the rule of law, or whether we will allow it to be supplanted by the rule of narrative. Let us begin with the historical lens, for no crisis emerges without precedent. The seeds of today's lawlessness were sown during the Obama administration, a period marked by a subtle but profound shift in the rhetoric and priorities of governance. President Obama, a man of considerable oratorical gifts, often spoke of activism as a moral imperative, casting suspicion on the institutions of law enforcement while romanticizing the energy of street protest. This was not a mere rhetorical flourish, it was a signal, one that reverberated through the halls of power and into the public square. As I observed in Dismantling America, the vision of the anointed, those who believe their moral intentions outweigh tangible consequences, began to reshape the priorities of governance. During those years, we witnessed a growing reluctance to enforce the law with clarity and consistency. Police departments tasked with maintaining public safety were increasingly portrayed as oppressors, while those who violated the law were recast as victims of systemic injustice. What is the function of law if its enforcers are vilified and its violators celebrated? This question, which should have been rhetorical, became a policy stance. The Obama administration's rhetoric emboldened a generation of activists who saw lawlessness not as a threat to society, but as a form of moral expression. From Ferguson to Baltimore, we saw the consequences. Riots met with equivocation, property destroyed, lives disrupted, and a growing sense that the rules no longer applied to those who shouted the loudest. The elite class, politicians, academics, and media figures embraced this vision, not because it produced better outcomes, but because it aligned with their self-image as moral arbiters. This was the beginning of a cultural shift, one that prioritized sentiment over result and narrative over reality. This brings up...
I disagree with that part. I believe he's right with Obama, but that was part of the plan. Part of the plan was to put Obama in there, weaken the U.S. military, change out politicians, put in judges that were going to cause problems, that were going to continue with the insurgency, and switch out hundreds of officers. He took out 200 officers in the military, replaced them with DUI, weaker people that didn't have the mental or physical ability to perform the jobs that were required of them. And so Mr. Soul, who is an intellectual, very intelligent, isn't quite seeing the exact thing. This isn't just them and their ideology thinking that they've got a moral stance and they're on their moral high ground and they're smarter than everybody else, so therefore they're trying to change. This is people that hate America. That the mayor of LA is a perfect example of that. I could go on and on. She was sent out of the city on purpose while direct energy weapons were fired at LA, and those fires were started, just like the governor of Hawaii was out of off the island, when Maui was hit. This is a concentrated effort between politicians and globalists and the Chinese CCP to weaken America and take it down. It was a 16-year plan. It was going to be Obama that was going to set it up, and then Hillary was going to knock them all down. He's absolutely right as far as the historical context of this, as far as it being Obama. But it really started even before him. The Bushes are CIA and were weakening America through drug use. Bush Sr. was the Vice President of the United States and was the drug czar, but he was in charge of really bringing the drugs in, which really, really weakened America and the African-American society. So, and then when this Obama character came in, he's CIA as well. As a matter of fact, Obama and the Bushes are good buddies. There was recently a deal where Trump was there. Maybe it was a funeral. It was recently, and Obama and Bush were there, and Obama asked Bush, "What can we do to stop this?" Meaning, they were at the inauguration for Trump. That's what it was, and so Trump has been recruited to do a counterinsurgency. And so it's very interesting to listen to this Mr. Soul. He's very, very intelligent, but he doesn't quite have all of the pieces together here. So let's listen to what else he has to say here. I find this all very, very interesting.
Us to the present moment, where the continuity of that shift is unmistakable. The Democratic leaders of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, Representative Maxine Waters, Mayor Karen Bass, have not merely inherited this legacy, they have amplified it. Their response to the Los Angeles riots reveals a pattern of political culpability that is as predictable as it is alarming. When Immigration and Customs Enforcement, acting within this lawful mandate, arrested convicted illegal immigrants, individuals whose presence in the country was itself a violation of federal law, the response was not gratitude for the restoration of order, but outrage. Rioters, armed with cinder blocks and fireworks, attacked police officers, set fire to public property, and disrupted the lives of law-abiding citizens. And yet, rather than condemn this violence unequivocally, California's leaders chose a different path. Governor Newsom, in a press conference that can only be described as a masterclass in moral posturing, called President Trump a dictator for deploying the National Guard under the authority of Title 10, United States Code Section 12,406. Representative Waters, never one to shy away from inflammatory rhetoric, suggested that the rioters' actions were a response to systemic oppression, as though throwing explosives at law enforcement were a legitimate form of political discourse. Mayor Bass, meanwhile, offered tepid calls for calm while failing to articulate a single actionable plan to restore order in her city. This is not leadership, it is abdication. It is the refusal to confront the reality that lawlessness, left unchecked, begets more lawlessness. The degeneration of law and order often begins not on the streets, but in the seminar rooms and the press conferences. What we are witnessing in Los Angeles is not a spontaneous outburst of public frustration. It is the predictable outcome of a decade-long experiment in moral exhibitionism. Democratic leaders, particularly in urban centers like Los Angeles, have consistently undermined the institutions charged with maintaining order. They have vilified ICE for enforcing immigration laws, demonized police for doing their jobs, and signaled solidarity with those who break the law, either through silence or through carefully crafted equivocations wrapped in the language of justice. This is not a neutral stance. To refuse to defend the law is to enable those who defy it. Let us examine the events in Los Angeles with clarity. The riots began in response to ICE's arrests of individuals who were not merely undocumented, but had been convicted of serious crimes, crimes that in a functioning society would demand accountability. The rioters' actions, attacking police, destroying property, endangering lives, were not a cry for reform, but an assault on the very concept of law. President Trump's decision to deploy 2,000 National Guard troops was not an
Very eloquent, very intellectual guy, but I have to disagree with him. We're not witnessing a crisis of leadership. We're witnessing the purposeful shirking of duties and looking the other way and claiming that this is all good because the oppressors need to overthrow the dictator. This is just, when you try to do something, you're not going to come right out and tell all the people, hey, we have been paid off or bribed or whatever to take down the United States, so we're going to set up a situation where riots and things will destroy the country. They're not going to say that. They're going to say other things like, oh, this is oppression, they're being kidnapped, this is a dictator, we need to overthrow the bonds of our slavery, when it's all lies. They're not, there's not a crisis of leadership. They are liars. They live to destroy the United States. Gavin Newsom is from a very corrupt family in California that has been working with the deep state and with organized crime for a very long time. So there it is. Tell me what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe. I feel like you've made it this far, that I have earned your subscription. This is going down. I've been knowing that this has been coming for a long time. While these riots go on, it would not surprise me if other state sponsors do attempt to do some things to try to further destabilize the United States, an EMP attack or a grid shutdown or something like that. They have been trying to make a move on the United States for a very long time. China released a certain something that shall remain nameless on YouTube. We are in World War III. We're in war with China right now. When they purposely release a certain something in 2019 into the world during the presidential election, that is a declaration of war. They've done other things. They've produced all the fentanyl and sent it to the United States. They have withheld emergency supplies during that same virus that they released that shall remain nameless on YouTube. So we are at war. China is doing things. Not only did they release that virus, but they just got busted a couple days ago releasing a fungus, trying to bring a fungus to the United States that would destroy crops, wheat, barley. We're seeing them that chicken processing plants and actual heads of cattle are being destroyed via direct energy weapons. So the United States is under multiple forms of attack, and I want you to know this so you can prepare. So that's it. We're already in World War III, so get used to it. Get ready. We'll see you on the next Ultra Top Secret.